Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 underway here in New Delhi. Prime Minister Modi to address India's largest and first of its kind mobility exhibition today. US approves plan for a series of strikes on Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. Defense Secretary says dangerous moment in West Asia, reiterates avoidance of wider conflict.
We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region, but we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States.
India opts to bat against England in the second test. Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer in focus as India eye comeback win in Vizag. Rajat Patidar makes debut. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a program at India's largest and first of its kind mobility exhibition, Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024, at 4:30 p.m. today at Bharat Mandapam in the national capital. Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 will showcase India's capabilities across the entire mobility and automotive value chains. India is hosting the first ever Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 between 1st to 3rd of February. The Expo will showcase India's capabilities across the entire mobility and automotive value chains. The Expo will feature exhibitions, conferences, buyer-seller meets, state sessions, road safety pavilion, and also public-centric attractions like go-karting. With over 800 exhibitors from 50-plus countries, the Expo will highlight cutting-edge technologies, sustainable solutions and breakthroughs in mobility. The Expo will feature participation from over 28 vehicle manufacturers, in addition to the presence of more than 600 auto component manufacturers. Over 1,000 brands from over 13 global markets will showcase their complete range of products, technologies and services at the event. With focus on new age components, technology, fossil fuels and a growing EV ecosystem, the Expo also features dedicated exhibition on automation, urban mobility solution, EV charging solutions and more. The United States on Thursday approved the sale of 31 MQ-9B armed drones to India at an estimated cost of $3.99 billion US. The proposed mega drone deal was announced during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington in June last year. Under the deal, India will get 31 high-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial vehicles, of which the Navy will get 15 Sea Guardian drones, while the Army and the Indian Air Force will get 8 each of the land version, the Sky Guardian. The U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency, in a statement, said the proposed sale will support the foreign policy and national security objectives of the U.S. by helping to strengthen U.S.-Indian strategic relationship and to improve the security of a major defense partner, which continues to be an important force for political stability, peace and economic progress in the Indo-Pacific and South Asia region. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the drone deal offers significant potential to further advance strategic technology cooperation with India and military cooperation in the region.
India Defense Partnership has seen significant growth over the past decade. This is a proposed sale that was announced during Prime Minister Modi's visit last year. We believe it offers significant potential to further advance strategic technology cooperation with India and military cooperation in the region. Of course, Congress plays, as you know, an important role in the U.S. arms transfer process. We routinely consult with members of Congress on the Foreign Affairs Committee's before our formal notification so we can address questions that they might have, but I don't have any comment on when that formal notification might take place.
A high-level Maldivian delegation is in Delhi ahead of core group meeting today. The delegation, comprising of both diplomatic and military representatives, is expected to take part in the second core group meeting. The first meeting of the core group was held in Male on January 14th. During the meeting, both sides held discussions on wide-ranging issues related to bilateral cooperation towards identifying steps to enhance partnership, including expediting the implementation of ongoing development cooperation projects. Another Indian student has been found dead in Cincinnati, U.S. It was the third death of an Indian student in the U.S. within a week. Taking to social media site X, Indian consulate in New York said that the police investigation was underway. It further said that the consulate continues to remain in touch with the family and is extending all possible assistance to them. Earlier, Neil Acharya, an Indian student in the United States studying at Indiana's Purdue University, was found dead on Sunday after he was reported missing. This came after another Indian student named Vivek Saini was brutally murdered by a homeless drug addict inside a store in Georgia. On the third day of the budget session of Indian Parliament, lawmakers are set to engage in a debate on the motion of thanks to the President's address in both the houses on Friday. Meanwhile, question-hour session slated for the first half of the day, followed by discussion on private business from 3:30 p.m. in both the houses of Parliament. All right, for more on this, we have our correspondent Vikas Sarthi joining us. Vikas, good morning. The third day of the session today, lawmakers are set to engage in debate on motion of thanks to the President's address on Friday. Can we get more details as to how do we expect the day to pan out?
Right, Preeti. So in both the houses, a discussion on motion of thanks on President's address to the joint sitting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will begin today. In both the houses, Member of Parliament will discuss the points, the issues, the subject raised by the President in her address to the joint sitting. Generally, Preeti, we have seen that this debate goes on for three to 4 days, but what will be the exact allocated time we will be able to know once the discussion starts, and it is expected that it will continue next week as well. Once all the member of parliament put their views on President's address, then Prime Minister Narendra Modi will give a detailed reply, and we expect that during the discussion and as well as during the reply to this discussion, all the major achievements of this government, not only in this 5 year but the last decade of Modi government will be discussed, and Prime Minister will give a detailed reply and will give us kind of a report card, you can say, since we are already in an election year. So all the major achievements of the government and what is the strategy for the future, it will be discussed during this discussion in both the houses. Later on, once the Prime Minister's reply is over in next week, then the discussion on the Finance Minister's budget speech will start, and these two are the main agenda of the budget session, on the first part of the budget session. So we expect that it will be limited to these two particular discussions alone. Preeti?
All right, Vikas, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those inputs, telling us more about what is to be expected in both the houses of Parliament today. Let's turn focus to other updates. Days after Indian Navy warship INS Sumitra intercepted 2 vessels and rescued 2 hijacked vessels from Somali pirates, the Pakistani and Iranian crew of the ships thanked the Indian Navy for saving them from the pirates. The Indian Navy released a video of the anti-piracy operations in the Indian Ocean region. Committed to maritime security in the Indian Ocean region, Indian naval warships mission deployed are ensuring security against all maritime threats, keeping seas safe for mariners of all nationalities. Lakshadweep found a special mention during India's interim budget presented by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on Thursday. In a speech, the Finance Minister said that projects for port connectivity, tourism, infrastructure and amenities will be taken up on our islands, including Lakshadweep, to address the emerging fervour for domestic tourism in the country. The cluster of scenic Indian islands located in the Arabian Sea have been getting high strikes on the internet following a recent visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in January this year. Amidst the political unrest in the Indian state of Jharkhand, Champai Soren is set to take oath as the Chief Minister of Jharkhand on Friday. Earlier on Thursday, Jharkhand Governor invited Champai Soren to Raj Bhavan to form the government in the state. Soren is a loyalist of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha leader Hemant Soren. After the oath, he will have to demonstrate his majority in a floor test within the next 10 days. Former Chief Minister of Jharkhand and Jharkhand Mukti Morcha leader Hemant Soren resigned hours before he was sent to one-day judicial custody by a special PMLA court in Ranchi in connection with an alleged land scam case. Soren was arrested on Wednesday night by the Directorate of Enforcement after 6 hours of questioning in the money laundering case linked to the alleged land scam. India's anti-money laundering agency, Enforcement Directorate, has asked Mr. Kejriwal to appear before the probe agency on Friday. So far, the ED has issued 5 summons to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in connection with Delhi liquor policy scam. He missed all the earlier summons by the ED in the case. The ED is probing Delhi government's excise policy for 2021-22, under which licenses were given to liquor traders that led to cartelization and favored certain businessmen who allegedly paid bribe in lieu of the benefits they got. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. The Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, a large number of devotees flocked to Varanasi to offer prayers. Hindu devotees are performing the rituals of worship in Varanasi's Gyanvapi cellar on the second day after the district court's approval. The basement barricades were opened and people offered prayers. A significant security arrangement has been made in the vicinity to avert any potential disturbances. Indian Coast Guard celebrates its 48th Raising Day in New Delhi. India's Defence Ministry said in a statement that Indian Coast Guard, with 152 ships and 78 aircraft in its arsenal, is on track to achieve its targeted force levels of 200 surface platforms and 100 aircraft by 2030. Under the motto, Vayam Rakshama, the Indian Coast Guard has saved over 11,554 lives since its inception. The Indian Navy is also set to commission the latest survey vessel Sandhayak on 3rd February at Naval Dockyard Vizag in the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. The vessel is designed indigenously. The primary role of the ship is to carry out full-scale hydrographic surveys of ports, harbours, navigational routes and deep seas towards enabling safe marine navigation. Amidst the chilling winters in India, capital city of Delhi was engulfed in dense fog on Friday morning. The shallow fog affected visibility in several areas, which caused disruptions in flight and train services. According to the Met Department, a thick layer of fog shrouded isolated areas of Delhi and East Uttar Pradesh, while dense fog was observed in isolated pockets of Haryana, Rajasthan and Jharkhand. The Indian Army rescued a pregnant woman amidst heavy snowfall in Kupwara district of India's Kashmir. The local army unit received a distress call from the husband of the pregnant woman requesting for urgent rescue and medical evacuation of his wife, who was in a critical condition. Realizing the critical situation, the Indian rescue team and medicos from army camp immediately responded to the distress call. Pangi Valley, a tribal area of Chamba of the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, received heavy snowfall. The entire valley has been covered in a thick layer of snow. Earlier, the Met Department issued an orange alert for snowfall at various places in Himachal Pradesh, indicating the possibility of rain also in other parts of the state. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, we'll give you an update on Israel-Hamas conflict as Israel shifts focus to Gaza's Rafah city. Meanwhile, Qatar, Egypt hope Hamas will agree to the ceasefire. European Union gives nod to extend 50 billion euros in financial assistance for Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomes the move. In Brazil, thousands of farmers have taken to the streets to protest against rising living costs.
Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. The US has approved plans for a series of strikes on Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. It comes after a drone attack killed 3 US soldiers in Jordan, close to the Syrian border, on Sunday. The US blamed an Iranian-backed terrorist group for the attack. That group, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, is believed to contain multiple militias that have been armed, funded and trained by Iran's Revolutionary Guards Force. Iran, meanwhile, has denied any role in the attack, which injured 41 other US troops at the military base known as Tower 22. Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said on Thursday that this was a dangerous moment in West Asia, but the United States would work to avoid a wider conflict.
So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region. But we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose.
Up next, we get to updates on Israel-Hamas conflict. Israel will shift the focus of its operations to Gaza's Rafah city after claiming to have dismantled Hamas units in Khan Yunis. Rafah is located near the Egypt border. The development comes as Qatari and Egyptian mediators hope for a positive response from Hamas to a fresh proposal for an extended halt in fighting agreed with Israel and the US at talks in Paris last week. The proposal also calls for release of hostages. Meanwhile, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that the country's troops have killed 10,000 terrorists in Gaza since the start of the conflict with Hamas.
Not to stop it requires national resilience and determination, and we must preserve until we complete our missions. And it is more difficult for Hamas, believe me. They don't have weapons, they don't have ammunition. They have 10,000 eliminated terrorists and another 10,000 terrorists who are wounded and not functioning. This is a serious blow that erodes their abilities.
The US has said that it had a very frank conversation with Israeli officials about settler violence in West Bank. Now, this comes after the Biden administration imposed sanctions on 4 Israeli men it accused of being involved in settler violence.
We have had some very frank conversations with them about extremist settler violence. And that includes some very detailed conversations where we have presented cases to the Israeli government, cases of settler violence where we have seen reports and where we have seen documented settler violence and asked them to take action. And we have seen them take some action.
Leaders of the European Union on Thursday unanimously voted in favor of extending 50 billion euros in financial assistance for Ukraine, a decision that was welcomed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The crucial funding was stalled last year when Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban blocked its passage at an EU summit in December. Zelensky said EU support will help strengthen the long-term economic and financial stability of Ukraine. DD India's Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv.
President Zelensky on Thursday thanked European Council President Charles Michel and EU leaders for establishing the 50 billion euro aid package, which will be provided to Kyiv over the next 4 years. The aid deal, called the Ukraine Facility, was approved during a European Council summit on Thursday.
Today is indeed a very special day. The European Council reconfirmed Europe's unwavering commitment to stand with Ukraine. We all know that Ukraine is fighting for us. So we will support them with the necessary funding and provide them with the much-needed predictability they deserve. So with this agreement, Europe stands united and is well-equipped for the challenges ahead. In other words, today, Europe got stronger.
After weeks of concerns that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban may block its passage again, as he had done in a previous EU summit in December of last year. Now, before Thursday's summit began, EU leaders pressured Orban to lift his block. Now, Orban has for months been calling for the need to review the distribution of funds on an annual basis, which triggered concerns that this could open up the opportunity for the funding to be vetoed by him at a later stage. He had also tried to get the EU to unblock money allocated for Hungary, which has been frozen due to concerns about the country's deteriorating rule of law. Now, EU leaders agreed that the aid package will be discussed yearly and that it will potentially undergo a review in 2 years only if necessary. The news came after officials in Ukraine warned that Kyiv may face an economic crisis if support from the West continued to stall. Although Zelensky said he was grateful for the long-term financial assistance to Kyiv, he also urged EU leaders to send more military aid.
I'm grateful for your decision on the financial instrument for us, for our people, for Ukraine. Ukraine facility with 50 billion euros for a 4-year period. This is a clear signal that Ukraine will withstand and that Europe will withstand. It is also really important that this decision was taken unanimously by all of you, all 27 member states, and it is yet another clear sign of your strong unity and support.
Officials in Ukraine have said that Kyiv is facing a critical shortage of artillery shells, while Moscow's forces continue to fire thousands of shells along the front lines every day. Megumi Lim in Kyiv reporting for DD India.
On the 12th day of protest, blockades, transport and supply routes in Bolivia interrupted. The political standoff has complicated transport routes overland, leaving some commuters stranded, and reports of food and fuel shortages in several Bolivian cities. Former President Evo Morales' supporters are calling for judicial elections that were reportedly due last year. It comes after the country's constitutional court ruled the former president could not run for elections in 2025. A Russian strike killed 2 French volunteer aid workers in southern Ukrainian region of Kherson on Thursday. Kherson Governor Alexander Prokhodin said the Russian attack on the town of Berislav killed the 2 French nationals and wounded 3 other foreigners. Prosecutors in the region said Russian forces launched a mass drone attack in the area. A Ukrainian national was also wounded in the strike. Ukrainian troops have since established positions on the eastern bank, but Russian forces continue heavy shelling of other parts of Kherson region from the areas they hold on the eastern side. The International Atomic Energy Agency says that workers from Ukraine's atomic energy operator Energoatom have been barred from the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. The plant is now managed by staff who have taken Russian nationality. IAEA head Rafael Grossi is to visit the site next week after holding high-level talks in Kyiv. He will raise the crucial issue of staffing at the plant during the visit. As per reports, Russia had been imposing citizenship on plant's employees and forcing them to sign contracts with Russian-installed operator Rosatom. The plant was taken over by Russian forces in March 2022, and its 6 reactors have been shut down. United Nations highest court, the International Court of Justice, will decide if Ukraine's case against Russia, accusing Russia of violating international law by claiming its invasion, was a response to an alleged genocide on Friday. Over 24 European states have backed Kyiv by giving formal statements to the court, stressing that they believe the case should move forward. The court has already issued emergency measures in March 2022 in the case, ordering Russia to immediately halt its military operations in Ukraine. While the court's rulings are final and legally binding, it has no way to enforce them, and Russia have ignored their orders. Moscow said Ukraine is using the case as a roundabout way to get a ruling on the overall legality of Russia's military action. North Korea fired multiple cruise missiles off its west coast on Friday. Now, this is the 4th time in just over a week when Pyongyang has launched such missiles. North Korea has called these strategic cruise missiles, indicating that they may be nuclear-capable weapons. Earlier this week, North Korea said it had tested its new submarine-launched cruise missiles. Earlier on Thursday, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected a shipyard on Friday, underscoring the importance of a strong naval force in war preparations. Kim's visit is being made public after North Korea tested its new submarine-launched cruise missiles. Still photos released by KCNA showed Kim looking around the shipyard with his officials. Also, the agency cited Kim saying that strengthening naval force is the most important issue in pushing ahead with war preparations. Kim was briefed on various warship constructions for a new huge plan decided by the North Korean leadership. Boosting trade and regional security in the Indo-Pacific region will be at the top of the agenda when European and Asian leaders meet on Friday. EU's top diplomat will host foreign ministers of the ASEAN grouping as well as from Pacific Islands in two separate meetings. Ishan Garg gets us more about what to expect from Brussels.
Hosting such a large delegation from Asia is a rare occurrence in Brussels. European Union officials say hosting the ASEAN and the Pacific Island nations at the same time shows the bloc's commitment towards the Indo-Pacific region. Leaders from the east coast of Africa to the Pacific Islands are expected to attend the EU Indo-Pacific ministerial meeting, while the EU-ASEAN summit will include the foreign ministers of Brunei, Myanmar, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. EU officials say they believe the Asian century has begun, and engaging with players in the Indo-Pacific region has become crucial for trade and defense purposes. The EU and ASEAN have been trying to get a free trade agreement over the line for the past decade. Analysts say both blocs are looking to reduce their dependence on the Chinese economy and could now be closer to a deal finally. Officials say the bulk of the conversation between EU officials and leaders from ASEAN and the Indo-Pacific is going to focus on growing trade and investment in the region. The leaders will also assess common security issues. Those could include China's alleged aggression in the South China Sea and political tensions in Taiwan. EU officials told us that the bloc is hoping to pitch itself as a reliable defense partner with no hidden agendas. The meetings are also likely to focus extensively on climate change and transitioning to green energy. Pacific Islands and some of the ASEAN nations are among the countries likely to be most impacted by climate change, and Europe says it has the experience and technical expertise which can help these countries prepare better. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, we give you weather updates from across the globe. And Ice Palace takes shape for annual New York Winter Carnival.
Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India. Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. A quick relook at the top stories once again. Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 underway in New Delhi. Prime Minister Modi to address India's largest and first of its kind mobility exhibition today. US approves plan for a series of strikes on Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. Defense Secretary says dangerous moment in West Asia, reiterates avoidance of wider conflict. And India set to play the second test match against England. Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer in focus as India eye comeback win in Vizag. Thousands of farmers have taken to the streets of Brussels to protest against the rising living costs. The protest brought the city to a standstill as protesters clashed with police. DD India's Alex Kadia reports on this.
Well, farmers have been here in the streets of Brussels blocking traffic, blocking most of the main avenues, and they've been here all day outside of the European Parliament. You see they've lit 2 bonfires. Those have been burning all day. These farmers here to express their anger, their frustration with what they say are rising production costs and falling prices for their products. They say that their way of life, their businesses will not be sustainable in the months to come. They will need more support from the government. That is the message from here today. And we heard Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, saying that we hear farmers and we support European farmers, says the European President Commission. She, alongside the Dutch Prime Minister, the Belgian Prime Minister, met with these farming groups, hearing their concerns, hearing their frustrations. But we saw those frustrations boiling over.
As you have seen, there is a major farmers' protest in Brussels. We need to be able to discuss in the Council on this topic, because the concerns that they have are partly legitimate. The climate transition is a key priority for our societies. We need to make sure that our farmers can be a partner in this.
Earlier today, just behind me, we saw some of these farmers clashing with police, throwing bricks at police officers, throwing eggs at the European Parliament building as well, making that anger heard. It's certainly an issue that will be rumbling on in the next few weeks. Of course, European elections expected in June, and we can expect this to be quite a core, quite an important issue as well. So certainly that frustration, that anger expressed by European farmers here in Brussels today and heard by those EU leaders gathered in the city. Alex Kadia in Brussels reporting for DD India.
Demonstrations reflect common issues across the continent. Let's take a look at some of them. Irish farmers gathered tractors and rallied in support for their EU counterparts.
The number of tractors taking part is large, just like our problems. We came here to demonstrate and demand tax-free agricultural fuel, just like in other European countries, as it is unproductive for us to work paying regular fuel prices. Second, fertilizer is high. There has not been a serious agricultural policy for decades. We are crumbling.
Greek farmers in Thessaloniki demanded better conditions, driving tractors into the city during an agricultural trade fair. They seek state subsidies, cheaper fuel and faster compensation for weather-related losses. Floods and droughts have also caused high production costs. Despite the government's promises of increased aid, many farmers are still waiting for funds to recover from the recent natural disasters.
We decided to come here to join with other kind of European young farmers to create a unique voice, not against, but with the cooperation of the European Parliament and the other kind of politics, because we'd like to safeguard our tradition, our farmers' mood, our quality of food, but to safeguard the majority part of this kind of situation, the dignified incomes.
Farmers from Italy and Spain joined the protest, with one Spanish farmer saying that they wanted to stop the crazy laws of the European Union Commission.
Mirror clauses, that's extremely necessary. On the second hand, we want to stop this crazy law that come every single day from the European Commission. It's a kind of tsunami. And the third one is we demand respect from the Spanish and the farming European community.
Portuguese farmers staged protests by driving tractors towards the Spanish border. Smaller farm associations demand action. Feeling misrepresented despite CAP and government agreement, the government announced a €500 million aid package to avoid mass disruptions. Meanwhile, the growing unrest has also been seen recently in Poland and Germany. Bipartisan negotiators in the U.S. Senate will release an agreement to curb the flow of migrants across the U.S.-Mexico border. But the legislation still faces opposition from Republicans backing former U.S. President Donald Trump, who is also the frontrunner for GOP presidential nomination. Trump has called on lawmakers to reject any deal ahead of the November elections that will determine the control of the White House and Congress. Protesters calling for stricter border control converged on the U.S. state of Texas. The demonstrators began a cross-country journey from Virginia Beach that will end at Eagle Pass near the U.S.-Mexico border. Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, who attended the rally, slammed President Joe Biden's administration, saying that it failed to curb migration.
What is happening here?
The U.S. Border Patrol arrested about 2 million migrants at the border in the fiscal year 2023.
You all should be standing up and saying, you know what, enough is enough. We're not going to take it anymore. We're going to take our country back. Texans, you're the epicenter of this. Thank you so much for being the activists, for being the hardworking, independent, patriotic Americans that you are.
Northern Ireland is set to elect a government on Saturday for the first time in 2 years after the British Parliament agreed to revamp post-Brexit trade rules to break a political stalemate. In a historic first, Irish nationalists Sinn Féin are set to take the First Minister's role after securing the most seats in the British region's 2022 election. Northern Ireland has been without devolved government since the pro-British Democratic Unionist Party walked out in protest over the post-Brexit trade rules, which it said created barriers with the rest of UK and undermined Northern Ireland's place in it. The deal represents a political win for British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who managed a breakthrough that eluded his predecessor Boris Johnson and helped draw a line under years of wrangling over North Ireland's post-Brexit trading arrangements. Multiple attacks, including bomb blasts and shootings, have been reported across Balochistan ahead of the general elections. Over 29 attacks have taken place on the Pakistani army, election candidates and natural resources exploration companies in different districts of Balochistan in the last 24 hours. The attacks have also caused numerous casualties and property damage. However, no group has claimed responsibility so far for these attacks. Following these attacks, the Pakistan electoral body has taken notice and requested an immediate report from the Chief Secretary and Inspector General of Balochistan. Let's get to weather updates from across the globe now. The Argentines, in fact, are experiencing heat wave at a time when it was supposed to be their winters. With temperatures rising towards 40 degrees Celsius, residents seek respite from the oppressive heat, and communal showers became a haven. Hundreds of people flocked to rivers and doused themselves under colorful showers to contend with the heat. Meanwhile, red alert was issued around the country. Catalonia residents faced severe water usage restrictions amid the region's worst drought, with bans on car washing and filling of the swimming pools. As reservoirs plummet to around 16% of the capacity, impacting approx 6 million people in 200 urban areas, including Barcelona, the measures aim to alleviate the crisis. Water levels at Sao Reservoir have dropped dramatically, revealing typically submerged ruins. Officials consider alternative water transport, with Barcelona potentially facing shipment in case of water scarcity. The local government insists on reducing water usage by 5% and up to 80% for farmers, with potential of further tightening of restrictions. Permitted daily water usage is reduced to 200 litres per person, down from 210 litres.
I have never seen it like this. It has decreased a lot. You could see the bell tower of the church all the way to the cemetery, but now you see, and the smell of rotten mud. I don't know how we will end up.
As Storm Ingan moved north, the Norwegian police cordoned off the center of the coastal town of Bodo, advising residents to stay indoors. The storm set a new record for average wind speed in Norway, reaching 54.4 meters per second. It has battered large parts of the country, leading to cancelled ferries, closed doors and damage to buildings. After hitting southern and central Norway, the storm moved north overnight, prompting police to ask inhabitants to stay home for their safety.
Now we have closed off the center of Bodo because of the storm. There was a lot of wind down there, probably more than up here. So now we are closing off so that people don't go to the city center and get hit by debris. We have heard rumors that hotels are starting to let loose some of their windows, roof tiles and wall tiles. So it's a bit exciting down there.
Floods hit Peru as rivers overflow from heavy rainfall, submerging streets and causing home damage. The Tiambra River floods a sports field in Junín, destroying basketball and football fields, with houses and crops affected. In Cajamarca, residents used plastic containers to clear muddy waters from their homes. The Peruvian National Meteorological and Hydrological Service warns that the coastal El Nino phenomena will persist until late summer, resulting in the ongoing impact. The first of the two back-to-back atmospheric rivers drenched California on Thursday, flooding roads and toppling trees while triggering statewide storm preparations and calls for people to get ready for powerful downpour, heavy snow and damaging winds. Heavy rain and gusty winds that began hitting San Francisco Bay Area on Monday moved south and arrived in Los Angeles in time to snarl the Thursday morning commute. The Weather Service issued a flooding watch into Friday morning for the Bay Area and the Central Coast because of possible flooding of rivers, streams, some roads and areas scarred by previous wildfires. Forecasters also said the Central Coast could see waves up to 18 feet high on Thursday and Friday. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Several fatalities were reported on Thursday after a small plane crashed into and demolished a mobile home in Clearwater, Florida, officials said. The crash presumably killed the pilot, while firefighters sought to determine if there were any victims on the ground. In all, 4 homes were damaged in the mobile home park where the crash occurred. Clearwater Fire Department are in the search of the victims following the plane crash. A fire resulting from a gas explosion in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, killed 2 people and injured at least 165. The fire started just before midnight at a gas refilling company whose building was badly damaged, the government spokesperson Isaac Mowara said on social media platform X. Few victims have suffered burns on their body while escaping after the gas cylinder exploded. The archive of contemporary music and its 3 million sound recordings is presently set up at an unlikely location of a colorful orange and white building in rural New York, formerly used for raising pigs, with a goal to preserve 2 copies of every recording ever made, one to be used as a listening copy and a second as an archival copy. ARC envisions becoming a public research. A 20-year-old song from Chile called Doobie Doobie Doo has gone viral in Japan, taking the singer by surprise. In 2003, 5-year-old Crystal Rodriguez performed her hit song Doobie Doobie Doo in a talent show on a local television channel. Recently, the song has garnered a new lease of life thanks to streaming and social media. Earlier this month, it reached #1 on Spotify's viral top 50 in Japan. A mesmerizing ice palace is currently in the process of being constructed for the upcoming Saranac Lake Winter Carnival in 2024. This frosty marvel, a time-honored tradition, stands as the focal point of the annual festivities. In recent times, the intricate structures have been skillfully crafted by talented residents of Saranac Lake, adding a personalized touch to the frosty spectacle. A quick break ahead, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Amid Ferrari's latest attempt to reignite their Formula One World Championship ambitions, Hamilton set for a shock switch from Mercedes to Ferrari in 2025. The executive chef for Paris 2024 Olympic Games, Charles Guilloy, is all set to head 300-strong team tasked with feeding people from 206 countries. We will show you images of a curious panda cub exploring how doors work.
Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. U.S. stocks rebounded on Thursday, recovering from a brutal sell-off as the Wall Street seems to have come to terms with Fed's signals of a delay in rate cut. The Fed held steady on rates but signaled that a March cut is unlikely. The 30 stock Dow added 369.54 points to close at 38,519.84. It was a fresh record close for the blue chip index, which also wiped its losses from a day earlier. The S&P 500 added 1.25% to 4,906.19. The Nasdaq gained 1.3% to finish the session at 15,361.64. For now, the Wall Street has adjusted its expectations on Fed's rate cut plans. And talking of the Asian markets were trading higher earlier on Friday, reflecting Wall Street's rebound from the sell-off earlier this week. The gains in U.S. tech stocks gains spilled over into tech-heavy Asian bourses as well. Japan's Nikkei added 0.2% on strength in the tech sector, though larger gains were held back due to losses in the banking stocks, which was influenced by a mix of profit-taking and fears of exposure to U.S. realty headwinds. South Korea's Kospi was up 2.2%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index moved up by 1.3%. Talking of the Indian markets, then Indian indices moved up with substantial gains during early trade on Friday, a day after India's interim budget was announced. Sensex topped a high of 72,543.29 till 10 a.m. IST after closing at 71,645 on Thursday, while Nifty touched 22,295.4 after ending Thursday's session at 22,029.6 at the closing bells. In Argentina, police clashed with protesters in the Argentine capital, Buenos Aires, for the second consecutive day on Thursday, as lawmakers debated an economic reform bill known as the Omnibus Bill. The Argentine lower chamber was debating the bill proposed by Libertarian President Javier Milei to overhaul the South American country's economy. Milei faces a major challenge to push the bill through, with his coalition only having a minority in both the chambers, which means he has to win over the allies. The Omnibus Bill contains hundreds of articles which, if passed, will usher in sweeping free market reforms. The International Monetary Fund and Egypt are in very last stretch of negotiations to augment the country's $3 billion IMF loan program to ease pressures from the conflict in Gaza. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said on Thursday in Washington that a staff negotiating mission to Cairo has been extended to work out details to implement reforms agreed by Egypt. This would include reforms of its central bank to move over time to inflation targeting in setting the monetary policy. And Tesla opened its first South American store this week, displaying its sleek electric vehicles in Chile's capital, Santiago. Chile has a target to sell only electric vehicles by 2035. Tesla has retail outlets in Mexico, but was yet to expand into South America, according to its website. The company hosted the launch event on Thursday at the new Santiago store that attracted fans of high-end auto known for its autopilot features. On DD India News Hour, we now get you updates from the world of sports. Team India has opted to bat first against England in the second test at Visakhapatnam that begins from Friday. Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer are in focus as India eye a comeback win in Vizag. Rajat Patidar is also making a debut. India seeks to bounce back after they lost the first test by 28 runs, despite taking a first innings lead of 196 runs. England stunned India courtesy of marathon innings by Ollie Pope and 7-wicket haul by Tom Hartley in the second innings. 7 times Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton is set for a shock switch from Mercedes to Ferrari in 2025 as replacement for Spanish driver Carlos Sainz, according to multiple media reports on Thursday. It means Hamilton, 39 years of age, would team up with Charles Leclerc, with the Italian team announcing a week ago that the Monegasque had signed on for more several seasons. The move would be Ferrari's latest attempt to reignite their Formula One World Championship ambitions, the most famous team in the sport. But Ferrari have not had a world champion since Kimi Raikkonen in 2007, and the last Constructors' Championship was claimed in 2008. As the sporting community gears up for Paris Olympics, we take a look at what's on the menu cards for athletes who will be participating in this year's Summer Games. The executive chef for Paris 2024 Olympic Games, Charles Guilloy, is all set to welcome the world at his table. A total of 550 dishes will be served to the 15,000 athletes at Paris Olympics, which is scheduled in the month of July and August. We get you a detailed report ahead.
Chef Charles Guilloy's lentil dal is one of the 550 dishes that will be served to the 15,000 athletes at the Paris Olympics, where up to 40 tons of food will be cut up and cooked daily with regard to many different tastes and cultures. Guilloy, chef executive of Sodexo Live, the company in charge of delivering meals 24/7 in Athletes Village, just north of Paris, will head a 300-strong team tasked with feeding people from 206 countries. Sodexo Live has provided meals for athletes at the French Open tennis as well as those at the French National Institute of Football. Guilloy is all ready to welcome the world as he chopped onions and garlic before roasting kurkuma, ginger and a mix of spices, key ingredients in his dal, made with French green lentils instead of red lentils.
We are going to make a green lentil dal, locally sourced green lentils, which will be served with a skyr, a rich in protein yogurt, a coriander and a lime skyr, and we will have a little corn oil to add a little crunch.
He added that 25% of ingredients used in the preparations of the meals would be locally sourced. On top of that, a bakery will open and athletes will be invited to workshop to make their own baguettes.
This is not a menu. We are really dealing with a colossal task with 550 recipes over the period of the games. And of course, when coming up with these 550 recipes, we have taken into account the different intolerances and allergies, the ethnic, cultural and religious cuisines. These are things that we have taken into account, along with gluten-free, lactose-free products, and of course, halal and kosher. These are all the things you will find in the Olympic Village to answer the needs of athletes.
To provide all the meals, Guilloy said 1,000 people would work around the clock at the village. Some 40 different dishes for about 40,000 meals served will be on offer every day. A nutritionist will be deployed to help athletes who don't have the means to hire their own. The service will start on July 10, 16 days before the Olympic Games begin, and will end on September 12, 4 days after completion of the Paralympics. Abhishek Prasad's report for DD India.
The endearing footage of a not yet one-year-old giant panda cub was seen trying to work out how to operate the door to its enclosure in southwest China's Sichuan province. The video was released by a research base working in protecting and breeding giant pandas, red pandas, and other endangered wild animals unique to China. From China, we now take you to Srinagar, the heart of Jammu and Kashmir. It continues to be draped in a snowy blanket, with the city receiving this season's first light snowfall, creating a picturesque winter scene. Gulmarg witnessed fresh layers of snow, turning landscapes into serene white vistas. With those beautiful visuals, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.